very beginning of membership, and that is Code Sangala, and that's why he was a little confused. I think he came in late and he didn't know what part we were at. So we'd like to welcome Code to come forward to share a little bit about being a brand new member.
Thank you so much. That's what happens when you miss the memo and you're a little late. So sorry about that. Yeah, my name is Code, and as I mentioned earlier on, I got introduced to this church by my wife, Dana, who is in Africa on a work trip. She's doing Cameroon, Togo, Tanzania, and she'll end up back home at my home country, Malawi. So I'm a little jealous about that. But yes, when Dana came through to the house, it's like, I found this church, and it's really, really nice. And one of the things that she said was like, the church actually accepts people as they are. And that really resonated with me very deeply because I come from a Presbyterian background. I've gone to the Baptist church, so, raised a Christian. But I'm a broadcaster, former broadcaster, and my time on radio, I spent a lot with a lot of Rastas. So I've been all over the place. And when Dana mentioned that there's a church that really accepts people as they are, I thought, wow, I might want to give that a try. And so we've been coming here for a little over a year. And I got to say that the first time that I came through here, it was so welcoming. There's something very unique about the space that just kind of feels like home, and for somebody who's transitioning from a different place, Africa, originally my home, Malawi, coming here, you want to have a sense of community, a sense of family, and I felt like this place has given us that. And it's very, very important to be able to come through in a space where you feel like familiar faces. Once you were a stranger and all of a sudden it's like, oh, hi, I know you. People are saying my name, and that brings me closer to home that's very, very far away. And now this space I'm happy to call home. So I'm really excited to be part of the community, and I'm hoping to get more involved. I love music, and so at some point I'm hoping I'm going to either do the band. I love the choir, and so thank you so much for welcoming me into this space that I call now my own home. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Code. We're going to move on now and recognize our members who have been a part of this community for 10 years, a decade in membership. If you're here and present, or if you're on Zoom, you can wave. I'm going to say the names of those people who are being recognized for 10 years of membership. They are Sherry Calvo, Corey Deal, Laura Flo Kelman, Peggy O'Day, Ann Parsons, Jesse Rhines, oh gosh, Lydia should, oh my gosh, say it for me. Shavidki, I'm sorry, Lydia, and Judy Spiewak. So if you're here, wave or stand. And from this class, we have Jesse Rhines and Corey Deal who are going to share.
Hi. I guess I'll go first. My name's Corey Deal, and we came here 10 years ago. I guess, but what I can't tell if I'm too close or not. I hear this ringing. All right. This is sort of off the cuff. I didn't plan anything. I just knew we were going to be speaking. So I remember when we first joined, the two things really stood out to me. And it wasn't the community. It was it's like, oh, our kids, we want to bring our kids here. We want our kids to be, to have other friends. And I learned about crossing paths, which I don't know if everybody knows what that is, but the kids get a chance, an opportunity to go to other churches and learn and ask questions about what is that about? And that just really is amazing to me in that I didn't get to have that experience when I was younger. And then the other thing was OWL, our whole lives, because I didn't want to teach that stuff. And I'm so thankful that happens here.
We should say that's like sex education, for those of you that don't know.
Yeah. And on the journey there, because we started when they were 3 and 1, or what, 4, 3 and 3 and 1. It was a long time before they got to that point. So in that journey, I have gotten to meet a lot of really amazing human beings here. And human being with a capital B is really important to me. And I've been able to find that in this congregation, so thank you.
I'm just going to add a little bit that both Corey and I were raised in families that were quite wary of churches, and all of our parents had quite negative experiences within churches. I remember my father being quite early on in my life teaching me about how his church felt racist, and my mom told me how her church felt sexist, and they were like, you can do what you want when you get older, but we're not going to be doing any of that. And it was pretty similar for you, right? So only once we had children, we felt this urge, and we were quite wary, and I actually came first on my own. I was like, you stay with the children. I'll go check it out. And I remember sitting right here in the front row, and Reverend John, you were speaking. And I have no idea what you said, but I remember tears. I remember feeling so connected to you and the message, and so touched that there was a space where we would be not only not doing that, the isms, but we would be talking about how we could not. We would be making a study of how we could come together and welcome people as they are, right? And so little by little, I brought the rest of my family in. It's also worth saying that while there have been lots of celebrations and joys and lots of learning, and I've taught lots of the little kids, I've taught some yoga, I've been a part of groups here, Corey has as well. We enjoy volunteering to pull weeds and bring food. This was also the very first place that I leaned on when I was ready to speak about the hardest parts of life. Anastasia, you were the first person that I could speak to about a really challenging time in our marriage, a period of difficulty and separation. And I remember thinking that if I were a member of other churches, we would, thinking about divorce, we might be told that we were going to hell, And I got an entirely different experience with you, Anastasia. And then when we were rebuilding and reconciling, you guys were some of the first 2 people that we told, and the cheers and the love really are worth mentioning here. It's not just about the good times. It's you guys have been here for us through the very hardest times, and we're forever grateful. Yeah.
We are now moving on to the milestone of 25 years of membership, and we actually just have one special member celebrating 25 years, and that is Susie Oakes, and she's going to come up and share with us. Let's welcome Susie.
It's wonderful to be here. It's my first time back here after maybe 2 or 3 years. I'm a big Zoomer. I Zoom every Sunday. I'm a faithful Zoom member. But the church is so beautiful, and all your faces are just wonderful to see. All right, it says 25, but the truth is I've probably been coming here 40 years. I had a really dear best friend named Diane, who is a homegrown UU from Oak Park, Illinois, and near Chicago, but she ended up in Cherry Hill. So every time I visited her, she would drag me to her Unitarian church. And after a while, she didn't have to drag me. I would just say, well, it's Sunday, let's go to your church. Because I love the readings. The readings are so beautiful from our hymnal. I love the sermons, I love the music, and I really loved the politics. But my my first time here, I spent 5 years in Utah, but I'd come back to our home in Severna Park. And I guess we had just gotten back the night before or something, but I brought my 3 kids here. And we sat right where Max is sitting in the front row, and my son puked on the floor. And I said, uh-oh, I didn't come back for several years. But I did come back. And I joined the choir, and what a gift that was. Betsy Jo Angerbrandt was our director, and she was a composer and just wonderful to work with. She did have to quiet me down a lot because I love to sit back in the back row and chat with my fellow altos. I was a back row, very mediocre alto. Those who were back with me. But there was this kind of tall, lanky guy who used to hand me the music. It seems I was always arriving a little late. I was teaching full-time at the college then, and with a single mom by then. And he'd hand me the music, and I noticed every week he didn't hand anyone else the music. And so that is history. But we did get married in this church 35 years ago, and the choir sang at our wedding. And it was just a beautiful wedding. The whole choir was up here, and I would just like to shout out a few people who were in that choir. Some of you don't even know them, but let's see, where's my list here? Well, Betsy Jo, I guess sorry. Let's see, there was Diane Goforth and Sadie Curtis, Dory Mayer, Martha Wilder, Phil Tawes. These were people at our wedding, and our dear friends Jack and Ernie Smith, and maybe even Lisa Flaherty. We met her earlier, and she's still there, and of course our beautiful current soprano, Nancy Summers. They all sang at our wedding many, many years ago. At some point in my career, I came before this congregation. I was working with AIDS patients, and there were literally no services in our area for people with AIDS. It was a denial kind of thing. We knew what caused it. We didn't really have a treatment, maybe one drug. But I was seeing people who were dying and whose families had totally abandoned them. And so I had a little group called Haven, and we decided that we needed a home to help to usher them to death, really, because they all eventually died, my patients and friends. And I came before this church to ask if you would be a sponsor. Now, this was a pretty big stretch for us. And there were lawyers in the group, and I could see them, their eyes darting and at me. But the church took this on, and I will have to shout out again, Diane Goforth really became involved, and Fred Muir, and many others, and Sadie and Bill Curtis. I can remember one time, Esther Carpenter stood up. I don't know if any of you remember Esther Carpenter. She was such a wonderful person in our church, and she announced that she and Tom had been married 35 years. And Max and I had been married about a year, and I thought, how did they do it? But this year, Max and I will celebrate our 35th year of anniversary. So. And one other little milestone was one year someone asked us, Karen Muir, Lisa Flaherty, and I, to do a sermon on Mother's Day. And there's a quote in the Bible that says, women should never speak in church. So we called it 3 Women Speak in Church. And that was really wonderful to do. So what I just really want to leave you with was something that Sarah already showed you. I was going to go through this little, here's the church, here's the steeple. But this is what it's all about. Whoops. It's about you. It's about you, the people. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Susie. We are now going to recognize those members who are celebrating 40 years in membership. And there are 3, Cliff Andrew, Reverend Fred Muir, and Max Oakes. Coincidentally. And Max Oakes is going to come up and share with us.
Well, in 1956, when I was 15, my dad and some of his friends, my mom and dad, went up to the Unitarian Church in Baltimore on the corner of St. Paul there to hear the candidate running against Eisenhower, who of course won, Adlai Stevenson. That was our hero, Adlai Stevenson. They called him the egghead, and so they were very impressed with Adlai Stevenson, and it turns out he was a Unitarian, and some of my parents' friends thought, well, let's find out more about what Unitarian means and what it is, because Adlai is so cool. And so the Annapolis Fellowship was born, and they found little buildings around town on Ridgely. There was the Friends Meeting House and a church that was empty in Eastport. And here's a quote: Stevenson's Unitarian rearing had imbued him with the means of translating religious and ethical values into civic issues. And so the Unitarian Fellowship hired Curtis Crawford and eventually became the Unitarian Church of Annapolis. Curtis Crawford was a dynamic young liberal guy, and I started coming when I was 14 or 15, and I joined the LRY, the Liberal Religious Youth. And he said, well, what do you guys want to do? And I said, how about let's read Allen Ginsberg's poem called Howl, and Dylan Thomas, and let's listen to Charlie Bird Parker play jazz. And he said, okay. And I thought, man, this guy is really cool. So, and yeah, he was. He gave beautiful sermons, and every sermon ended with a quote from the Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 17. And it goes, until the day break and the shadows flee away, turn, my beloved, and be thou like a gazelle or a young hart upon the mountains of spices. And it was the poetry, it was the politics that was so important to me, but the poetry that I loved that kept me coming back and coming back. And so finally, after 19 years of styling myself as a friend of the congregation, I finally, I kept saying to Diane Goforth, man, the choir sounded good this morning. She said, come on and join us. We sing every Wednesday night. We practice. And I went, oh, well. And finally, she nagged me enough that I went and joined the choir. Now that I'm in the choir, doggone it, I have to go on Sunday because the choir's singing on Sunday. And it kind of snagged me in there. So, and then I just fell in love with everyone in the choir. And I was already smitten by all the beautiful compositions, and especially our director, Betsy Jo Angebrand, who I early recognized as a minor American composer of importance, and someone like Aaron Copland or George Gershwin or Charles Ives. She was an American composer. She composed a beautiful cantata called Songs of Celebration. She set the words, the readings in the back of our hymnal to music, and it is so beautiful. The place where we meet to seek the highest is holy ground. And I'm hoping that our new choir director will maybe get the choir to sing it, and then we can record it and put it on an LP vinyl 33 of it. Anyway, then the thing that really cinched it for me, I was in the choir, and Reverend Muir, we hired a new minister, Reverend Muir, and he was so wonderful. I said, all right, I'm going to quit dipping my toe in the water. I'm going to dive in. I'm going to become a member. That means I'm going to have to give a yearly pledge, but that's okay. And then in 1987, a clever, curvaceous alto joined the choir, and a bass fell in love. And Fred Muir officiated, and the choir sang at our wedding. Right after we got married, the first thing we did was go up to Johns Hopkins Hospital, and Susie gave the AIDS patients foot rubs while I played the guitar for them. In 1992, Fred noticed I was running summer concerts at Quiet Waters Park. The chemical formula for Quiet Waters is SHH2O. And asked if we could do folk concerts at the church. So the 333 Coffee House was born in 1992. I ran it till 2004, and it kept going until the pandemic shut it down in 2020. We found all sorts of opportunities. Diane Goforth was the chairperson of the Social Concerns Committee, and when she stepped down, asked me to take her place. It was really hard to fill her shoes because no one could do as good a job as she did. Susie and I taught coming of age and OWL, OWL, our whole lives, about sex, and in Sunday school. And then we led the Passover Seder, and with a Passover song that became part of the Haggadah, the little manual that we read during the Seder, and playing music for Camp Beagle, and facilitating the Soul of Aging with Reverend A.Z., and lots of wonderful, meaningful ways to give our time and energy. Anyway, like Susie said, the church is mostly all of us the people, we the people, and a sense of belonging. I didn't even know that was going to be a theme today. Belonging to this karass or tribe whose liberal politics and poetry and principles are congruent with my own. And I'd like to ask everyone to join me in a song. I took an old folk song that was a civil rights anthem, and I put some new words to it, hoping that one day it will get into the UU hymnal. I like messy. All souls welcome here. Everybody's welcome, all are welcome here. What does that mean? It means you and me, all souls welcome here. Rich or poor we gather, all souls welcome here. Young and old together, all souls welcome. Yes, like a tree planted by the water. What does that mean? It means you and me, all souls welcome here. Black or white, no matter, all souls welcome here. Gay or straight, don't matter, all souls welcome here. I once was blind, but now I'm seeking some truth to free my mind. Praying we are saying down on bended knee, living out our faith. We are community. I'll talk to you if you will talk to me. All souls welcome Thank you, Mother Nature. Thank you, Father God. Thank you, Father Nature. Thank you, Mother God. Be my religion. Music is my church, where all souls are welcome. Until the day break and the shadows flee away, turn, my beloved, and be thou like a gazelle or a young hart upon the mountains of spices.
Thank you so much, Max. We also have one member that is celebrating 50 years of membership, and that is Martha Wilder. And then we have 3 members who have been members of UUCA for more than 50 years. John Baer, Nancy Summers, and Bill Summers. And if you're on the Zoom or here, raise your hand. And we are going to hear from Martha Wilder. Thank you.
Well, you're going to hear some names that you've already heard before because Max and I were in the choir together and we know a lot of the same people. I first became a Unitarian back in 1962, my senior year in college, when our Lutheran minister insisted that I believe everything that was written in the Bible. And I felt I just couldn't do that. And so I looked for something where I could believe, and I found Unitarianism. 1974 was a memorable year for me personally, which is when I joined UUCA, and it was for a very memorable year for the church as well, because in November, the church building was gutted by a fire set by a neighborhood arsonist. We held services in a local elementary school until September of the following year. Meanwhile, I joined the church choir consisting of about 8 people, and we met in members' homes. Anyone who had a piano was volunteered to hold the choir there. We had no director until the famous Betsy Angebrandt came along. She heard us one Sunday and realized we desperately needed help. I had 2 sons, and I taught 3-year-olds 1 year in our church school, and in 1977 I became the religious education committee chair, which was quite a job because we had no professional help as with the professional director of religious education. We had some very good teachers, though. One of them, Dr. Thomas Carpenter, Esther Carpenter's husband. He was a professor at the Naval Academy and Anne Arundel Community College, and he taught my sons Bible stories, which is something I was surprised to hear that we would in a Unitarian church, but the kids loved him. After church, in the afternoons, he also taught rifle safety at a shooting range. Esther Carpenter, as a former director of social services for Anne Arundel County, was the person who started the mitten tree at Christmas time, in which we hung mittens to give to unfortunate children. She also encouraged me to provide flower arrangements for services, which became a lifelong passion for me. And when she said she asked me to take charge of flowers for the church when she found that she could no longer do it, or she felt that I was able to do it. In the 1980s, I was divorced and began helping with a new group at the church, something different for singles. Fred Muir married several couples as a result of this monthly meeting. And I don't know what happened after we left, because it seemed there were several marriages within a year or two, and that was a lot of the most active people here at the church. I met Dick, and yes, we were the first couple, I believe, to have the choir sing at our wedding. Dick became very active in the church. He bought an engraver and started engraving name tags for the church because he felt it was too expensive to have someone else, another company, do them. He also became the manager of the sound booth, and he did this for, I guess, about 20 years. I also enjoyed doing flowers for the church, and I was at one point on the intern committee and enjoyed meeting the future Unitarian ministers as they came to our church. In 2011, when it became necessary to move to Collington, a long-term care community near the Washington Beltway, our participation in the church waned, and I found myself occasionally attending services at Cedar Lane Unitarian Church in Bethesda because I liked their choir and their organ, and their Zoom services were very well done. But friends and the feeling of coming home bring me back to where our names are engraved forever on the stone wall in the Memorial Garden.
I also have a special introduction to make since it's Membership Sunday. I know there have been some questions because Stacy Gunnels here a couple times has been introduced as the membership coordinator, but she is actually going to be my new member engagement assistant. So come on up, Stacy. Stacy, for a year and a half, had been helping with Faith Formation, but she's transitioning to this new role, and we're so excited to have her, and I'm so excited to see what we can do to expand member engagement and all sorts of fun things for this community. So let's all welcome Stacy. Okay. And we are also here to celebrate and say thank you to all of those people who make our church so welcoming. As part of membership, I oversee the Radical Welcome team, which is a kind of rebranding that we've done of all of our ushers, greeters, and hospitality folks. We also have amazing volunteers that help every single week on Tuesdays to help go through the connection cards, write cards, send out those coffee cards that people get. So I specifically want to name Anastasia Hopkinson, Laura Dabney, Jackie Dutton, and Joanna Hilton Dahlgren, who come every single week and help with that. I could not do it without them. And I also want to give a really special thank you to Jim and Cheryl Shettle, who oversee the Roots and Wings program that helps to welcome and orient new folks into our community. So if you are a member of the Radical Welcome team, even if you volunteered one time, if you've helped with hospitality, ushering, greeting, working with the connection cards, or have facilitated the Roots and Wings, please stand so that we can see how many people have worked to make this such a welcoming congregation. Thank you.
I invite you to keep standing. So we offer, one of the things we covenant to is offer affirmation, appreciation, thanks. So I invite you to turn to your friends around, and for everyone here to face one of these wonderful members of our Radical Hospitality and Membership team. And I invite you to put a hand on your heart and lift a hand towards them. And remember that in all the work that they do, and all the work you are trusted to do, fundamentally it is to show love and welcome and openness, to let people know that they could come as they are and find here a people they could belong to, and know that we will change because of their presence. bless you, and bless us for this beloved community that we create together. May it be so, and amen.
Oh, I'm
Please
sorry about
rise
that.
as we extinguish our
Let
chalice.
me find the person and then I'll see if figure out how we can
I
help
forgot
you.
to say for the Radical Welcome Team and all those volunteers, I have a special gift for you, and as you exit, I will hand it to you at the door there. Thank you.